In today's video, I'm going to explain the issue with modern fruit and why I think that humans should avoid it. A lot of people believe that because fruit is natural and fruit is the least offended part of a plant, that it's good for us and it's safe to consume. However, by the end of this video, after hearing about how fruit has been modified by humans for the last 10,000 years, I think a lot of you will change your minds. In this video, I'm going to show you how fruit has changed over the years, first by giving you examples of how different fruits are in comparison to how they used to be. Then I'm going to talk about the methods that we've used in the last 10,000 years to manipulate crops to make them sweeter and more pest resistant, as well as how in more recent years scientists have taken this process one step further and started copying and pasting genes into other fruits. And then finally, I'll break down how this genetically modified fruit affects us, including how it makes us fat and how this foreign DNA causes inflammation in our bodies. The first example we're going to look at is bananas. As you can see on screen, old bananas used to have seeds in them, and they were drastically less sweeter than they are nowadays. Then we have peaches, who used to be a small fruit with a large stone, and now they're a large fruit with a much smaller stone. Their skin also used to be very waxy, now it's a lot softer. If you had a look at these two fruits, which in theory is the same fruit, side by side, you would not believe that they're the same thing. And then finally we're going to look at corn, which is obviously not a fruit, but it's a great example of how far we've taken this genetically modifying process. As you can see, the corn we have nowadays is drastically bigger. It probably has 100 times more energy now than the unmodified version it once was. So how did all of this begin? Well, for the most part, humans are quite intelligent. The fact that you're currently seeing a video from someone on the other side of the world talking to you right now is a great example of how far technology has progressed. So what happened is about 12,000 years ago, when we came out of the Ice Age and began the agricultural revolution and started farming, is that farmers realized that certain plants had very desirable traits. The sweeter a fruit was, the better it tasted. The faster it grew, the more of it they could produce. The more pest resistant it was, the more food they'd also get. So what they would do is they'd start growing plants together in the hopes that they'll pick up these desirable traits from one another. And then as soon as one plant had all the desirable traits that they wanted, they'd just mass grow that one plant. Whilst I was researching for this video, I found a great video that illustrates this process.
Let's say you wanted to make a consistently blue tomato that could be sold to grocery stores and chefs nationwide. And let's assume blue tomatoes already occur in some wild tomatoes in nature, but not consistently enough to sell to the masses. Breeders would then plant seeds from those wild tomatoes, the mostly blue ones, and seeds from a successful domesticated tomato. When those tomato seeds begin to flower, a plant breeder would remove the pollen from one flower and place it in the flower of the other variety. This resulting batch of tomatoes born is called F1 in the seed breeding world.
Imagine it's the year 8000 BC and you're responsible for feeding your small village. In one of your crops, you have this one apple that's super sweet, it grows very quickly, but it has terrible pest resistance. So what ends up happening is that the insects get to your crop and they destroy it before you can eat it. And then in another part of your crops, you have this different type of apple. Now it doesn't taste very good, but it's very pest resistant and the insects do not touch it. Do you reckon that in order to make sure all the people you love and care about have enough food, that you wouldn't get a bit creative and see what you could come up with? Now when you play this exact situation out across many different villages for tens of thousands of years, a lot of people started to catch on and we came up with some very clever methods. This worked very effectively over a long enough time horizon. Over the course of a decade, you could drastically change the way a plant tasted, the way it looked, and how resistant to pests it was. However, this process was very time consuming, and you sort of had to get lucky in a sense that the plant you were growing had all the desired traits that you wanted in it. I'm sure there are a few farmers that got the rough end of the stick, and the apples that they grew not only tasted bad, but they grew slow and they weren't very pest resistant. In 1973, a couple of scientists discovered a process called genetic engineering, where they were able to insert DNA from one bacteria to another. And 20 years later, humans started doing this to plants. So now not only have we had all this crossbreeding going on for 10,000 years, but now we literally have plants with their genes being copied and pasted into another plant. Now most fruits nowadays are GMO free, which basically means it hasn't had this lab DNA altering process done to them. However, if a plant has been manipulated by being crossbred for tens of thousands of years, just because it hasn't been done in a lab, it doesn't mean it's in its natural state. It's kind of like someone stating that none of the rooms in their house are green, but when someone points out to them their bright green bedroom, they try to argue, don't be silly, that's clearly lime coloured. So what is the issue with all of these drastic changes occurring? Well, the first issue lies in the fact that it's more pest resistant. When something is more pest resistant, it also means it's more defended. So all these defense chemicals that we typically see in fruits like tannins, lectins, polyphenols, you name it, are going to be present in higher quantities. And it's been clearly documented that these compounds are not good for humans. When a species consumes a specific plant for hundreds of thousands of years, they develop adaptations to help break down some of the defense chemicals in these plants. A great example of this is goats, who have eaten grass for an extended period of time and they've developed an enzyme in their saliva called tannins, which breaks down a defense chemical known as tannins. Humans have only consumed a very small amount of this hyper-sweet, hyper-defended plant, and therefore it's going to be inflammatory to us as we don't have any of the mechanisms to break the stuff down. Now, inflammation is the root cause of every disease, and I'm not saying fruit is the worst cause of inflammation. All I'm doing is pointing out that at least to some degree this fruit is going to be inflammatory. The extra sugar from this fruit in the form of both glucose and fructose is also going to fatten people up. Maybe if you're an individual who's always had a very small appetite and therefore always been very lean, and you live in some tropical island where you work out all the time, maybe then you can eat fruit and stay lean. But I think for most people, if you eat fruit, it will fatten you up. The super unnatural level of sugar that does not naturally occur in nature is going to cause massive blood sugar spikes. And the problem with this is when your blood sugar spikes up nice and high, it comes crashing back down. But it doesn't stop at its baseline, it goes below that level. In this state, you are known as something called hyperglycemic, which basically means that your blood sugar levels are below its baseline, and your body literally thinks it's dying. It thinks it's run out of fat, and what happens is you become obscenely hungry. This is why you're ridiculously hungry 3 hours after eating your favorite overnight apple oats, which your favorite fitness influencer has told you is a great breakfast for weight loss. As well as the fact that as soon as your blood sugar levels spike, another hormone leptin, which is responsible for telling your body to stop eating, is blocked. Eating fruit will make you considerably hungrier, which will make you eat more and therefore gain weight. I don't think too many people would argue with me on this point. Hey guys, it's me again. I wanted to let you all know that I've written an ebook, which is a complete beginner's guide on the carnivore diet. It's only 17 pages long and it covers everything you need to know. So whether you want to refresh your knowledge or you're a beginner who's looking to get onto the carnivore diet and doesn't know where to start, this one's for you. All you have to do is head down to the description of this video, click the top link, and I'll send it to you for free. And on top of that, I'll send you a couple emails each week with some bonus tips I have regarding the carnivore diet. And the best part is that there's no catch. It's literally all for free. So go down to the description to claim your free copy now. Anyway, back to the video. For others, you may also experience some digestive issues. Fructose is a FODMAP, which basically means it's one of the most common foods that cause digestive issues in people. So when a fruit is sweeter and it contains more of this fructose, the chances are it's going to wreak havoc on some people's stomachs. So in summary, fruit has been modified for an extended period of time. The fruit we have nowadays is way sweeter than it should be. It's way more defended than it typically would. We are simply not equipped to deal with this new variation of fruit that is not present in nature alone. Now I haven't even touched on the man-made chemical pesticides that they cover the stuff in, but even just the fruit alone grown without pesticides will likely be at least somewhat inflammatory, lead to weight gain, and in some people it may cause digestive issues. Now if you're deciding on your dessert tonight and you're choosing between an apple or a double fudge sundae with a side of soda, I think we can all agree that the apple is at least 10 times better for you than that. But in my opinion, I think the optimal human diet is a carnivorous diet, the way humans have eaten for the majority of our existence. I personally used to eat 10 servings of vegetables per day and lots of fruit, and ever since I've removed all of that stuff, I've felt so much better, it's almost incomparable. It's a night and day difference. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of my content, consider subscribing down below. It's completely free, and it means you'll see more videos like this. I made a video the other day in which I talk about all the changes I've noticed since switching to this all-meat diet. So if that sounds interesting to you, click that button there. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time.